Hello, Mia DeBolt here, bringing you more transparency in trading. Thank you so much for joining me along this journey to 7 figures of funding. So today we're going to be covering day 9 of the FTMO challenge, as well as day 7 of the funded trader. So I know it's a few days later, and I do have to say that my pup unfortunately did not make it, and we had to put her down on Friday. So while it was a really hard week for me, I had to really put aside some of my emotions today so that I could really record this and be up to date for you. So I wanted to record this and just know that when a family tragedy happens, it just means that sometimes you need a break. And it's okay. It's okay to back away from your trading, and it's okay to take some personal time. So with that being said, I'm going to cover what my Monday trades were. And the reason that I'm going to be showing you a static picture of TradingView is because, quite frankly, I had kind of a circuit breaker malfunction and my Zoom recording did not record. So I am going to take you over the shoulder and just kind of show you exactly what trade I took. Spoiler alert, it was a losing trade, and so I do have a recording of my Tuesday trade, which turned out to be a fairly decent trade, and I'll cover that video in that trade very shortly in this video as well. Okay, so let's get you up to date and let's dive into the charts. Okay, so here's Monday's trade. It's Monday the 30th, the second to last day of the month. And what I want to show you is that I was very impatient that day. And so I waited and waited all morning long. And this is the afternoon session, the New York session. And I waited for New York to open, as well as the New York Stock Exchange open. So I was patient for that. Some buy side was taken, and then we started pushing down. We had a market structure shift. So I was expecting this retracement. However, what I didn't account for was this breaker up here. So I was looking at that on a higher time frame, but I didn't really register it. So warning signs of maybe emotional distress or just not being completely 100% focused on the charts is that you just make mistakes like this. And so this was my first mistake of the week, which was that I was still distressed. I had not slept well all weekend, and so I was going on 6, maybe 7 hours of sleep, and I know that's one of my rules. I did see that I had 7 hours of sleep, but it was broken up because my pup was still very sick. So that was kind of an indication that I should have been really careful that day. So I did realize that I was not as rested as I normally am. I wasn't as focused as I typically am. And so I reduced my risk to 0.5%. So when I did lose this trade on Monday, it was only 0.57 on my FTMO account and 0.53 on the funded trader. So it was just a small little loss. And what I ended up doing was actually just walking away for the rest of the day. I did recognize that maybe it's because I'm still emotionally distressed about my pup, and so I did walk away. And so the mitigation of that loss, I didn't actually go in the PM session, and that's okay because price was very slow that day. It was not really doing a whole lot of expansions, and typically I just don't like that type of day anyway. So it was a Monday, there was no significant news events, and so there were not big drivers to actually move price. Okay, so in retrospect, I did see a 5-minute breaker. It did go up to the mean threshold, which is 50% of that breaker, and then push down for the sell side liquidity that I was targeting. So in retrospect, I'm really glad that this trade failed very quickly because I just walked away and I had the rest of the day to really take care of my pup and to be there for her. So had I been in this trade in the optimal entry, it would have taken over 5 hours to actually get to that target. And so that's not really a trade that I want to be in anyway. So on a normal day, that would have tested my patience anyway. Okay, so that is my trade for Monday, and my balance for the end of that day was 3.49% on FTMO and 2.08 on the funded trader. Okay, so real quickly, I wanted to share with you the 5-minute chart because it does share with you kind of what was going on. So there was 3 drives up, which is typically the retracement. and it did hit that mean threshold of that 5-minute order block. And so that's where it pushed down. This pink area is also a daily open gap, so that's also another indication and another point of resistance possibly. And so that's what happened. It took over 5 hours, I believe, over 11 hours to reach the terminus target, which was the daily low here. So it did take quite a long time. There was a lot of retracement and accumulation, and so that was not necessarily a trade that I would have stayed in. I probably would have gotten out over here, and that would have been about 5 hours, I believe. So yes, 4 hours and 40 minutes. And that's still a very long time for me. So I'm just glad that it was something that didn't hurt my account too much, and I just walked away for the rest of the day. Okay, so let's dive into my Tuesday trade, which was the last trade that I took during the week. Okay, so Tuesday, the 31st of January, was the last day of January, and so that actually had a couple of news driver events in the morning. At 6:45 it had orange folder news, and 7 a.m. it had red folder news, so those two really drove price. Okay, so this is the trade that I took on Tuesday the 31st, and it was a high resistance liquidity run that ICT mentioned in the morning. And I quite frankly don't even know what the characteristics of that are. So I'm really looking forward to his live commentary and mentorship this year. So if you haven't committed to tuning into his live commentary every single week on YouTube, I definitely think that you should, and really consider it if you want to be a master beast savage trader. So I plan on being that, and I'm going to be tuning in to learn all of the things that he's willing to teach this year. So we had two news drivers in the morning. One was an orange folder event at 6:45 my time, and the other was at 7 a.m. and it was a red folder event. So those two drove price. However, I waited until those were complete. They were not as super volatile or didn't drive price as much as I would like. And it was a kind of choppy day for me. And the lack of sleep, the emotional drain of my pup being sick, definitely what started weighing on me. So you'll see in my trading that the little patience that I have, that I know that I lack, I had even less of that during that morning. So you'll see in the video what I did, and I'll share with you what I might do differently had I been a little bit more lucid and more focused. All right, so let's dive into the video. So the 7 a.m. red folder event took sell side liquidity and then pushed up and had a market structure shift. So I'm looking at these as fair value gaps that I would like them to stay open, and so this is kind of where I'm entering. So I'm just going to speed this up, make it 2 times as fast, and let's just watch what I did. So I end up entering here. I'm at 1%, so I did enter at 1%, and so we're just pushing into that fair value gap. And what I have marked up here is this 5-minute breaker. So I'm expecting this breaker to hold and for it to continue up, because there was buy side. There's 3 levels of liquidity. There's a daily open gap up here that it could definitely draw price. Okay, so I'm taking my photos. There's a weekly open. That's my terminus target that I really wanted to see price go to, and it does not end up going there. However, there is a daily open gap, and then there's a daily high up here at that TP level. So I know my charts are a little messy, but you get the gist of it, that you can see fair value gaps. There's a 1-minute breaker, and I am expecting that 1-minute breaker to hold price. Okay, so price is starting to just go up and down. I'm going to kind of fast forward this because this price action is, again, not the kind of price action that I love to be in. And in retrospect, this is a high resistance liquidity run, and so it is a lot harder for price to move. There's a lot more for it to get through, and quite frankly, I'm really looking forward to ICT kind of explaining what the differences are and how I can identify this in the future, because these are not the kind of days that I want to be in a price action move like this. So I am expecting price to start expanding up, and that's what I'm wanting. Of course, I have a little bit of profit here, I probably could have taken a partial there. However, it just starts collapsing down. And let's fast forward because it does end up just oscillating back and forth. This 5 minute does not leave the station, which that's what I want it to do. Okay, so it just collapses down. This is an order block, so it's doing a great job of holding price up. And so there is some profit to be made right now. I could take another partial. And had I really had the mindset of 5 handles, I probably could have just closed this trade and been happy with 0.5% or more and not had to wait through all of this up and down price action. Okay, so it's back to almost to my entry, and I've moved my stop up to a reasonable area. So I am expecting that price won't go down all the way down here. So I trimmed my risk and I moved my stop loss up. Okay, so again, it's just oscillating back and forth. It did respect that order block. Price is still going up. However, it's just so choppy. And this is a day that I was already mentally kind of on the edge, on the fringe, and I knew that about myself. And so this is kind of where my decision-making process came in. So in retrospect, I probably should have just stayed out of the market altogether last week because it did end up being a really, really tough week for me. However, I am really glad that I didn't end up doing any more trading after this day. Okay, so this would have been a beautiful profit to take and a beautiful run up. So we did break structure again, so we're moving up. Okay, so I did think about closing it here because there was a mean threshold, so it was 50% of the 1 hour order block that was there. So that's something that I like to see, is just it retracing a little bit. But again, this is a order block, all 3 of these candles. There's a 1 minute fair value gap there. And so let's fast forward. My thought process here is that I'd really like that 5 minute fair value gap to stay open. So again, this is just kind of filling in, being real, not aggressive either way, but just being balanced price action, repricing down. There's a volume imbalance right here that it's likely to fill. And so I moved my stop up pretty aggressively. This is something that, again, this is my patience being tested, and I'm just quite frankly not wanting to see price go any lower than 50% of that 5 minute candle or that 1 minute candle. Okay, so that's where I'm moving my stop up to break even. I don't want to see it going any lower than this. So like I said, in retrospect, it would have been better just to have taken profit up here at the 50% of the 1 hour and just walked away for the rest of the day. So it's okay. I had a little bit of profit, and let's see what happens. Again, it fills that 5 minute fair value gap, that 1 minute fair value gap, all of it, and just continues to kind of push down a little bit. And so again, it's going up and down, repricing and really balancing that imbalance right there. Okay, so it pushes up again, gives me a little hope, and the 15 minutes is starting to push up. I do have that 1 minute fair value gap. I'm expecting that to stay open, but it doesn't. So that's kind of where, again, I could have closed it out at 0.5% and been really happy. Okay, so already it's 8:29 in the morning, and we've already been in this trade for about an hour or so. So I entered around 7:39, and this is going quite a long time for me. So 0.73, again, we're pushing up, making almost fairly equals, and my stop is still at above break even, and then it starts coming down again. Okay, 0.87, so there's some potential. So it did take that short-term high, and then it broke down aggressively, left a fair value gap, rebalanced, repriced, and we are coming down. So here's where it starts coming down and takes out all this sell side, and eventually it will take out my stop. So already you can see 8:49, it's already been over an hour. It has hardly left anything for me to really want to stay in this trade. And so already I'm tested by my emotions, and there you go. So I got 0.18 out of that for FTMO and 0.17, and that's the end of that day. So I closed out that trade, and as you can see here, it did end up taking that daily high, However, look how long it took. So I entered here at 7:40, 7:39, and it didn't take that daily high until 5 hours and 15 minutes later. So there's really no way that I was ever going to be staying in that trade. Had I walked away, it would have weighed on me, and so I don't typically like to just walk away from my desk and leave a trade going. So that's where I really felt my emotions and really realized that I was holding on too much to these trades, and I was not as focused as I need to be. So having my dog sick and pretty much knowing that about myself and knowing that it's NFP week, I walked away for the rest of the week. So I didn't even show up to the charts. I watched the FOMC event and I watched the NFP event, but I didn't do any kind of demos. I didn't do anything for the rest of the week. And it was the best thing for me because I was there for my pup until the end, and I was able to just be with her and be with my family. So that's what I would say, is that there's lessons to be learned about just knowing yourself and knowing that if you're in an emotional state, it's not the time to trade. And just know that if you are going to trade, maybe it should just be really short term. So some of the lessons that I learned was, I should just take my profits when I take them. If it's going to be a high resistance liquidity run, then I just take my profits and close it out when I am feeling that resistance within myself. So I hope that you got something of value from this video. The more we can learn about ourselves in these different scenarios of emotions and life, that will help us to be better traders in the future. So just tune into yourself, listen to how you're feeling, and really take that with you in your trading, because if we don't learn these lessons, we're bound to actually repeat them over and over again. So I learned a lesson, which is when I'm emotionally distraught, my focus is really low, and if I am going to trade, it better be maybe 5 minutes maximum. So take the profits and run and close it out and walk away. Okay, so I'm so happy to actually share this with you because it's been a little while since I've been able to share my curve and my results and my accounts. So this is my FTMO account, and you can see that I've had 10 days. I've passed all 3 of these, and now I just need that profit target. So that's what I'm going to be focused on, is just building up my profit, and I will be doing that this week. So I'm really excited for this week to start and to really be focused this week. So you can see my trade on the 31st was a small win, and on the 30th it was a small loss. So I am at 10 days for FTMO. So my risk management is pretty solid, and I'm continuing to grow my equity curve, which is a good thing. Okay, so here's my funded trader account. And so you can see again, I have equity here. I have 7 days of trading, so I'm on my 7th day, and I have a net profit of 2.25, which is something that I can work on. So that's something that I have 24 more days, which I think is actually an error on their part, because I should only have maybe 15 days. I don't know how many more days, but I think they gave me a 45-day account, so I'm not going to be complaining. All right, so here's my last trade for the funded trader. I had a small win on the 31st and on the 27th. So that's another thing about the funded trader. Sometimes I don't see all my trades. And so you can see that on the 31st, I took a small win, and it says on the 27th, I had a small loss. I don't know where my 30th was. So I did have a small loss on the 30th as well. So that's the reason that I journal outside of these accounts, because I don't want to depend on these accounts to reconstruct any of my trades. Okay, thank you so much for joining me on this journey to the 7-figure funded mark. So if you haven't already, subscribe below so that you get more videos like this, where I'm breaking down my trades, sharing every step of the way along my journey to get 7 figures of funding. Okay, so this week will be great. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to trading a lot more this week, because I only have a week and a half left of the FTMO challenge, and so I have to be a little bit more aggressive this week, and I will be ultra focused this week on my challenge. So I look forward to it and look forward to bringing more videos to you. Okay, so have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.